Now let's discuss why we have presidential preference primaries and state caucuses in the first half of 2016. So Terry, start off by the history of primaries and their purpose.
Well, the purpose of primaries and caucuses is for the voters to have a say in who the presidential nominee is going to be. And really up until the late 1960s, there were mostly caucuses where the real party activists, the people that were strongly committed to their parties, would come and they would say who they believe would be the best candidate to represent their party and to win the election. And now, particularly since the 1970s, we have far more primaries and caucuses, which means that ordinary voters like my friend Aubrey and I can go and not be party activists and go and say who we think should run for president from the party that we're registered with in Florida, because Florida has what's called closed primaries.
Right, and that confuses voters all the time about why can't I make a selection? Why do I have to stick to the party I'm registered in? And if I register with no party affiliation, I'm left out. So, all right, Aubrey, let's talk about what the Florida legislature has done with the Florida presidential preference primary over the years.
Well, you know, traditionally, Florida went sort of in the middle or later in the process, March or even sometimes later if you go back far enough. But starting a couple election cycles ago, the Florida legislature decided that they thought Florida should have more impact in the selection process. Often in the past, by the time Florida had their primary, pretty much most of the candidates had already dropped out of the race and people knew who the nominee was going to be. So Florida actually pushed their primaries up into January for a couple election cycles.
It was the last week of the last Tuesday in January for 2008 and 2012.
Yeah, and that was against the national party rules, because there's national party rules that set windows of when states are supposed to go. And so actually the Democrats and Republicans both got penalized by doing that. And in fact, in 2008, it was more of a beauty contest because Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side, they didn't even really come and campaign in the state because the National Democratic Party said, well, Florida's breaking the rules. Thankfully, this year, Florida legislature, who officially sets the date, has decided that we will go legally according to national party rules, and so we'll be back in March, where we hopefully will still have some impact, but we'll also be doing it at a time that the national parties say is okay.
And actually, we did follow the party rules, because in 2013, the Florida legislature moved it to March 1st, but there's a thing in the party rule that after March 1st, you have to prorate your votes amongst the candidates, but if you wait till March 15th, it's winner take all. And that's why the Florida legislature moved us now to March the 15th as Florida's presidential preference primary. And also here in Orange County, we do have municipal elections on that day, which is where they piggyback. But why isn't there 4 states that get to go early? Why are they chosen that way?
They're very special states. There are states, it's really about tradition. I mean, it's a misconception that political parties are required or necessary. There's no mention of parties in the U.S. Constitution, and so they really function as extra institutions, not only extra as outside government, but they are extra. They help shape what goes on in the government. And it's really about tradition. The first primary in the nation is going to be held in New Hampshire, and the first caucus in the nation is Iowa. The first open primary is going to be in South Carolina. So they get to go early. There's a lot of novelty associated with what they do. And if you're a resident of any of those states, you get to meet a lot of presidential candidates every 4 years.
Right. So real quickly, how did Iowa change? Because they've always been known to be first. So what's their change, Aubrey?
Well, yeah, Iowa's still going to have the first in the nation caucus, but traditionally they even months and months before that had what they called the Iowa straw poll, where they tried to get all the presidential candidates to come and campaign in person, and then they would just have a non-binding poll to see, okay, who's ahead. And if you won that, it would give you, as a candidate, a lot of name recognition and let you raise a lot of money. But a lot of candidates have been avoiding it, and so Iowa actually has decided they're not going to do their straw poll this year.
Right. And the other thing we're going to talk about is how the results of that election helped select the delegates that go to the national convention. So Dr. Fine, Dr. Jewett, thank you for your insight on the party primaries and the caucuses. Thank you. We'll be right back.